We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
My body, my choice. I take care of myself. I should be able to have the freedoms to go out and do my work, my business, my job, take care of my family.
Is the 2020 election really the biggest election of our lifetime?
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
Say what you will about Mr. Trump. He certainly would bring some change to the White House.
I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that.
The billionaire businessman Donald Trump made it official today, never shy or modest about why he's running.
I don't need anybody's money. I'm using my own money. I'm not using the lobbyists. I'm not using donors. I don't care.
She was the Secretary of State, nation's chief diplomat. You're a businessman and host of a TV show. How do you win that argument at a time of national security crisis?
I think we'll win it because I think people will see I'm much more competent than she is.
You can say what you want about Donald Trump. He is rude, crude, interrupts, vulgar. But if you're going to be really honest about Trump, one thing you can say for sure is that we all know what he is for.
I have visited the laid-off factory workers and the communities crushed by our horrible and unfair trade deals. These are the forgotten men and women of our country, and they are forgotten, but they're not going to be forgotten long. These are people who work hard, but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
So now I'd like to invite John's wife, Jamie, to join us as I grant John, I'm not sure you know this, a full pardon.
He told us in 2016 what he was going to do, and he has been doing it ever since he was elected president.
African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded. The stock market has smashed one record after another, gaining $8 trillion and more in value in just this short period of time. The era of economic surrender is totally over.
Just days ago, the press and the pundits had declared this candidacy dead. Now, thanks to all of you, the heart of the Democratic Party, we just won, and we've won big because of you.
I was feeling sorry for him because I didn't think he was going to make it. but it's so exciting that he did.
What I like about Biden is probably the electability, the moderateness, the people. I really liked Amy Klobuchar. She got behind Biden. I really appreciate that.
I think Joe has more stable policies. I think that they are more mainstream. I think it's what the majority of the country is going to support.
He's a candidate that's more centered. He's not extreme left, you know? So I think that's the main reason right there.
It started to bother me that no one on the left could really say why they were voting for Biden and Harris. I have watched a debate with both Biden and Harris now, and I still cannot tell you one thing they really plan on doing if they get into the White House.
Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact.
Or the things they say they are going to do at the debates is the exact opposite of what they have said leading up to the debates.
I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends. Number one.
The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
the Green New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
I am supporting the Green New Deal, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year.
The first thing I would do as president was eliminate the president's tax cut.
I have 4 kids and get an extra $8,000 on the Trump tax credits he has given to large families like my own. So as you can imagine, it really started to bother me that one side seems to really know exactly what they are voting for with Trump, and the other side, the left, just straight up is not answering very important questions. Like, for example, if they plan to pack the court or not.
Now they'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
But you know, the moment I answer that question, the headline in every one of your papers will be about that.
Come on, America. How is this okay? Don't we expect more from our leaders? I don't know about you, but I expect a lot more. So I decided to try to figure out what the left really wants, and why Biden and Harris have almost a double-digit lead in the polls only about 3 weeks from the election. As you know, the news has such a narrative they are trying to push at the moment. So I really wanted to see what the people of this nation are saying on the streets and on social media. I came across this video of a man talking to a friend on the street that had no idea why he was voting for Biden.
We up here registering people to vote, and I got my brother, man, I've known for a long time, love this dude to death, man. He's a really good dude, right? So I say, hey, bro, you registered to vote this year? And he's like, yeah, I'm voting. I say, who you voting for? He was like, you already know. I'm like, Trump? He's like, hell no. Hell no. I'm like, bro, are you serious? So he's asking me, he say, Cass, why? Why vote for Trump? Okay, before we get into it, because I'm going to break it down to you. Why are you voting for Biden?
I think he's a better person.
Why?
Because what's going on now in the situation with Trump.
What Trump situation?
What's going on now? I believe he could come in and do a better job.
You really do?
I believe.
What has he done? You know he's been in politics for 47 years.
I understand that.
What has he done in 47 years? What has he done in 47 years?
A lot.
Like what?
I mean, I just believe he'll do better than
Did
Trump.
you know that Biden, in 47 years of politics, has only been a racist, said racist things about you and me?
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
He also said he didn't want his children going to school in a racial jungle. Didn't want integration. He was for segregation. And made a bill to incarcerate black people.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, we should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Meaning that black, brown, red, yellow are poor. When he thinks poor, he doesn't think white at all. He's thinking about you and me. And then his running mate, Kamala Harris, she's got a career of locking up black people.
There's a meme that says Kamala Harris broke the state record for incarcerating black males.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way. The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Given the questions that you have just answered, is it true the evidence gathered during your investigation did not establish that the president was involved in the underlying crime related to Russian election interference as stated in Volume 1, page 7?
We found insufficient evidence.
After the Russia hoax and an impeachment hearing over a phone call, the left has used COVID-19 to keep the economy down for as long as they can in hopes of winning the election. If it has not been obvious enough to you already, they have even said it.
What a great gift. What a tremendous opportunity. We're just so lucky. We have to use it with every ounce of intelligence and courage and wherewithal we have. Because you're absolutely right. This is it. COVID is God's gift to the left.
You can hear Ferrer mention the elections twice.
We're going to be where we are now until we are done with the election.
Social media people have left comments saying if anyone doesn't see this is political, you're blind.
I'm the one that says play football. I said they're young, strong people. They're not going to have a problem with COVID or the China virus or whatever you want to call it. I'm the one, and they didn't like my narrative, so they just made up a narrative. Because if you look, Michigan is closed. All of these states that are closed, North Carolina is closed. These states that are closed are run by Democrats. And the reason they're closed is because we have an election on November 3rd. And they don't want the opening of the states, and they don't want the income. They want to keep it nice and closed.
I would think that being on the side of opening businesses and not staying home for the next year plus would be on the side that America is on. Wouldn't you think? Especially now that we have so many of the world's top scientists now advising against the lockdowns. The left is claiming that Trump and the administration is so negligent and irresponsible for getting the virus. Is he? Is the waitress at your restaurant negligent and irresponsible when she gets COVID? What about the mailman who has to keep working as a mailman to feed his family? No. Why? Because those people do not have the luxury of stopping their lives and hiding out in their basement for months on end. Trump will not stop either. He wants to keep working. He wants to keep working for you and me, the American people.
Looting now underway in Beverly Hills.
Mayhem in Beverly Hills as looters storm the luxury clothing store Alexander McQueen and make off with thousands of dollars worth of goods. In upscale Santa Monica, devastating destruction as the looters attack business after business.
Hey guys, you see this?
Extraordinary footage shows a woman using her body to try to stop looters, one armed with a hammer, from smashing their way into a sporting goods store. She's violently pulled away in this dramatic footage shot by Fox 11 in Los Angeles. Despite her efforts, looters make off with bicycles and backpacks. At Patagonia, they flee with surfboards. These looters make their getaway on a motorcycle.
They hit us with coronavirus. You notice that when coronavirus hit, they said everybody got to stay in the house. Nobody could go out. But yet, if you're Black Lives Matter or Antifa, you could go out and protest and burn down and nobody's going to say nothing. But the coronavirus is so bad. We out here standing with masks. You feel me? Why? It's an agenda.
Why from the beginning of the BLM protest and riots has the left failed to speak out against them? Honestly, I do not even know if they are for them or against them at this point.
Now the left are redefining what peaceful means. Any protest that has seen multiple murders, bashings, widespread looting and destruction of property is not peaceful. This is not peaceful.
For some reason, they must not think that speaking out against the riots will help them win the election. I guess they are willing to put that ahead of really anything at this point. They have proved that over the last 3.5 years, wouldn't you say?
It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started.
But as her husband Ralph was trying to clean up outside, Alvarez says she turned to see him on the ground in front of a large crowd, unconscious.
I started to scream. I tried to wake him. He wouldn't wake back up. And I tried to call for the police. No one was picking up. I tried to call from the phone in there. No one was picking up. And people just kept coming by and just looking at him, and I wanted him to wake up.
When she went to help him, that's when she says she was attacked.
A woman came out of nowhere and hit me over the back with the crowbar.
Alvarez finally got through to 911 on her cell phone. She says her husband was taken to Stroger Hospital with a serious head injury.
The people that did this, the people that I saw, they weren't protesters. Protesters have a cause. This is a struggle. We're angry. We're angry at what is happening.
These so-called peaceful protests have even cost the lives of hundreds of innocent children.
We understand the frustration of racial uproots. We understand. We ain't got nothing to do with that. We innocent. We didn't mean no harm. My baby didn't mean no harm. Somebody knows something.
They say Black Lives Matter. You killed your own. Killed your own this time. Just because of barrier. They killed my baby because she crossed the barrier and made a U-turn. You killed a child. She ain't do nothing to nobody.
They didn't give us time to make a U-turn. They started shooting on my car before we could even make a U-turn. Shooting my tires out, like, why?
But Black Lives Matter.
Shot in her bed.
Killing your own.
Nobody there to help.
You killed an 8-year-old child.
I have not heard one leader from the left speak out against this tragedy and utter destruction.
Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now.
Really, you need to be president or in office to speak out against something as tragic as this? I don't know about you, but if I felt like I could help stop this destruction and utter murder, I would speak out against it, whether I was in office or not in office. I would like to think that you would do the same thing.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think about it.
This union says they need more officers on the street and support from the city to stop the violence. They've been getting vocal support from President Trump. Now they're supporting him back, endorsing the president during a rally at his New Jersey golf club. And it's an unusual move for the union, sparking controversy today.
Well, the union president says he can't remember the last time the PBA ever endorsed someone for president.
Minneapolis City Council members at a rally about an hour ago have announced their plan to disband the Minneapolis Police Department.
The number of people killed in Minneapolis is up 95% from the same time last summer. 39 people have lost their lives since the beginning of the year.
Rich Walker Sr. is the director of the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis.
The criminals feel like they can do whatever they want to do. They know the police department is at a vulnerable state right now with staffing levels and with morale.
Are we willing to defund the police and let our guns be taken away on top of that?
So to gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo. If I'm elected and I'm coming for you, and gun manufacturers, I'm going to take you on and I'm going to beat you.
Because we're done with people like you.
And after the murders of Breonna and George and Ahmaud and so many others, it's no wonder people are taken to the streets. And I support them.
I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in the Biden-Harris world.
Seattle's pledged to defund its police department by 50%, even including a proposal to remove 911 dispatchers from police control.
Joe Biden said he's absolutely on board with defunding the police. Listen closely.
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, you've reached 911. I'm sorry that there is no one here to answer your emergency call, but leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Crime will rise.
Are you willing to not have the right to defend yourself and no longer be able to call the defunded police? You might be saying, well, how would Biden really take away the right for me to defend myself? Remember that question that he continues to not answer about stacking the courts?
Sir, I've got to ask you about packing the courts. And I know that you said yesterday you aren't going to answer the question until after the election. But this is the number one thing that I've been asked about from viewers in the past couple of days.
Well, you've been asked by the viewers who are probably Republicans who don't want me continuing to talk about what they're doing to the court right now.
Well, sir, don't the voters deserve to know
No,
where
they
you
don't.
stand?
I'm not going to play his game.
Why do you think he and Harris refuse to answer it over and over? Because that's what they are attempting to do, to take your very freedoms away.
So they fined us $250 for one day. The next day, $500. The next day, $1,000. The next day, $2,000. The next day, $4,000. And now the last 4 days, they've just given to us $5,000 a day. America, this is a serious moment. In just these few days, we're up to $52,000.
He comes from heaven above us, and in the strength appointed. Some always trust in chariots, and others trust in horses. But we recall the Lord our God, strong past our own resources. Our enemies have fallen low.
Is our freedom of speech on the line too? If you don't think so, I don't know where you've been for this last year.
Ulig had posted this tweet which said, "Too bad. Black Lives Matter just torpedoed itself with its support of defund the police."
You'd think that would be fine for a public intellectual to weigh in on that issue in that way. There was nothing racist or discriminatory in how he said it. And yet, some of the biggest names in the profession have called for him to lose this position.
Hundreds signed a petition demanding that.
Because he has some different views from the protesters, he must be a racist.
Ulig was placed on leave from the journal he ran. The mob even attacks its fellow Democrats. This analyst at a Democratic polling firm tweeted about a study that concluded riots reduce the share of Democratic votes.
I would think the rioting does hurt their cause.
That sort of behavior makes people fearful.
So all this young man does is tweet an article that's obviously true, and he gets fired?
This is the biggest election of our lifetime, and it really comes down to one thing. Are we going to fight and keep the freedoms our forefathers fought so hard to get and keep?
And our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Or are we going to stay asleep to the reality that is before us and let these very freedoms slip away? That is why now is the time for choosing. I would be so thankful if you could help me by sharing this video. Oh, and please subscribe to the House of History channel below if you want to see more videos like this. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this video.